Good evening. This is Brian Pollard and Jerome Ola, uh, and I grieve in my own words podcast. And today, let us welcome Aaron Adams. Amen. This is Aaron Adams. And first of all, I would just like to thank you for coming out today to be a part of this podcast to share your thoughts, your experience, and your story today. So, if you can share your story of your son.
So, okay, so Josiah was, I guess, you think of your kids, you think of when they were born.
Right.
He was born in 07, oh 05. Oh 05, my daughter was 07. They were 14 months apart. And he was just a lively kid. He loved having fun and just, and, I want to say, I was blessed to have the time.
Yes, sir.
How much do you want me to share?
Oh, yeah, you can share as much as you want, about him,
Okay, well,
take your time,
kids,
Yes, sir.
I when I think of my son, and I think of my son died at 15, and you go through so many stages with your kids in life. You go through the diaper stage, you go through the toddler stage, and then you go through the kid, and then our kids grow up and they become the teenager, and Josiah was, through all those areas, he was a different kid.
Wow.
And I think in life, and that's what I've learned is that's how we grow with God.
Right.
Really, we become that kid. We become that where we met the Lord, and then we're zealous, and we're going to change everything, and then you become, and Josiah became a teenager, and as a teenager, he was learning what he was,
Right.
And my story, so when I think of Josiah as a kid, I feel as a father losing a son at 15, and I lost him in 2020.
Wow.
Just to catch up everybody. So it's been, 6
6
years.
years. 6 years.
It's been 6 years. And when I look back on that, I didn't know Josiah.
Wow.
I didn't know the kid, the teenager he was going to be. When Josiah turned 15, he turned 15 October 6th, and he died October 15th. That's the last time I talked to him.
9 days.
And
After his birthday.
I remember when I was talking to him, and the times of, like, even asking him, he went to Destiny. I don't know if you know where Destiny Church is. So he went to Destiny, and he had a lot of questions, and they were real questions about God and what he believes. And as a kid, being raised in the church and just seeing, I guess, hypocrisy, just us as, we make mistakes as parents.
Okay.
We are grown, but we're no different than that toddler.
That's right.
We're growing, and to see that as believers we grow, and and then when I lost my son, he I remember, and I want you guys to understand the story, because so I might bounce around a little bit, but
That's fine.
when he turned 15, I remember sitting down to him and saying, Josiah, you're turning 15, and in a year from now, you're going to want to drive.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to want you to drive. I'm going to want you to grow, and and stuff. But this year, you're really going to have to prove to me that you're going to be able to accept that responsibility. And I remember one thing he said to me. He says, "But Dad, you really don't let us go anyplace. How can you test me if you don't let us go anyplace?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to start trusting that you're going to make right decisions." And I remember in that conversation just telling Josiah, I said, "Josiah, and I'm thinking about me when I was a kid, and I got my driver's license and the wrecks I've been in and the situations I've been in." And I thought, man, I'm lucky that I didn't kill anybody.
Right.
Man, I'm lucky I didn't kill myself. Man, I'm thinking back to when I was 15 and the things I've gone through, and now I have a 15-year-old. And I remember telling Josiah that you could make really bad decisions. And I said, and you could kill somebody on not just making a bad decision.
Right. I agree.
You could kill somebody, or you could kill yourself. And I didn't realize that a week later, on the 15th of October, I began a phone call.
Wow. So this was after the conversation.
Yeah, this was after the conversation.
Wow.
Yeah,
the trust.
I'm going to trust you. I'm going to allow you to make mistakes, and there's consequences for mistakes, and so what happened is I've allowed Josiah to go stay at my family's house. And at my family's house, like every family, there's just not a perfect family.
Right.
And in the situation that I was in, I remember the night I let them stay, and they were going to stay the night, all the cousins were there. So when I say there's 5 siblings in my family, so that my parents had 2 sets of twins.
Wow.
And then I have an older brother, and they just wanted to hang out with their cousins. And so I allowed Josiah and my daughter Cherish to stay over there. And me and their mom just split up. She moved out in September, in October. So in other words, in October, and she's living in Yukon, just down the street from where my kids were, and I'm living out here by Lake Draper. So it's just and you feel like you're, I would say, you know what? You have to feel that God has your kids protected.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You really do.
You're right.
I mean, if I knew,
right,
that here's this talk I'm having with my son about, that, hey, I'm going to trust you. You got to make right decisions, knowing that, there's this world is a dangerous world, and then, so the weekend came, and I want to kind of jump forward and let people, so my son died of fentanyl, and him and his cousin thought that I don't know, I guess they wanted to get high.
What was it, a overdose, or was it something that was planned, or just something they found, or
it was an overdose? And how would I say? First off, I just really I've never really shared the story in this aspect, so I want my family to know they're loved.
Okay. Yes.
Right. And I'm grateful that I was able to forgive. And it's those things that makes me know that there's a God, because we are able to forgive, because the truth is we were forgiven.
Right.
And any of us can make stupid mistakes. And the night my son died, he was with his family. And my nephew was addicted to fentanyl really bad, which today he's not. And for some reason, my niece and my son decided that they wanted to get high. So my niece saw where I don't want to name names, where my nephew's bag was, and they went in and they were looking for either marijuana or something, and they found these pills. And the story I get, like I said, the story is they decided to steal the pills, and this was in Yukon. They decided to steal the pills, and they both decided that they were going to take it. My daughter actually was going to take this stuff with them. All three were going to do it. Thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord
that the night that happened, Josiah and my daughter got in a fight. And I know my daughter felt really bad because their last words were awful words. Wow. But I sat down with my daughter and I said, I just thank God that you guys had awful words. I mean, that was God's way of protecting you, because I could have lost both of my kids.
Yeah. So I guess during that time, do you feel that the family shared that responsibility of him passing?
That
the family that was
shared the responsibility?
Well, for the home.
Okay, so
was there any guidance or the responsible party there?
Was there an adult?
Right. Yeah. Just one.
There were adults there that obviously responded wrong.
Okay.
I mean, there's how would I say? The Yukon police called me and they actually wanted to press charges, but to me, I feel it was a family matter, and sending family to prison is not a, like I said, God forgave me much, and I had to learn to forgive and forgive quick. And I thank God that my nephew's not dead. Wow. I mean, honestly, I'm glad that my niece isn't dead. Yeah. And I couldn't come to a place because as a parent, they got to go home. My little brother got to hug his oldest son again, and he struggled getting off fentanyl. This was not an easy task, and he's having to deal with the loss and that he played a part in the loss of his cousin, my son.
Wow.
And the parties are having to deal with that. But to know that they're forgiven, and that they're forgiven by me.
Right.
Not just God.
Right.
I mean, you could be forgiven by, I know I'm forgiven by God, but the truth is, man, am I forgiven by the people that hate me? I mean, that's an important thing to me.
And to get a call, at midnight.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind then?
So I got a
call.
How the story goes is my nephew called his dad, my brother, and his dad told him, "Well, you better call your uncle." And these kids stole something out of his bag. It was an accident.
Okay.
It wasn't, and so in that I got a call by my nephew, and he was unglued. I mean, he's watching his nephew had an overdose, and the time that the story that unfolded in that environment where the kids, I mean, all of my whole family, all the kids, their uncle was there, and their response time, fentanyl kills you because you stop breathing.
Okay.
That's what happens with, you have an overdose, but what it does is it shuts down your lungs. And that's so when someone is on or having an overdose, that's why they got EpiPens and different things that You can do the time is not your friend.
Right.
It's not like they're going to sleep it off.
Right.
They're going to get all right. It stops your heart, and it causes you to it shuts down your body, and that's what happened to my son.
Wow.
And so their unknowingness, their ignorance, their whatever they're going in the moment, was ignorance on their part. But with fentanyl, it shuts you down. Quickly. And it only takes 15 minutes for you to be brain dead if you're not breathing. I mean, it doesn't take no time. And that's literally what my son died. His brain was dead. They got him at the hospital. He was there, and we showed up. And I got a phone call. I called my son at 8:00 that night. Okay, and I've shared this with you. I called my son at 8:00 that night, and I asked Josiah. I said, "Hey, why don't all of you guys just come over to my house? I'll come pick you guys up. We could all have fun. We could hang out. I'm here. I'm by myself. Why don't you guys all just come on and hang out?" And Josiah said, "Oh, Dad, we're just going to hang out here. We're going to sleep on the." He's hanging out with his cousins.
Having a good time.
But there was another plan. And he wanted to give it a whirl, and he made a tragic mistake. And I know even at his school one time I had a guy come up to me, and he didn't know who I was, and he was describing, and I didn't know this, his daughter actually came to my house before because she went to Destiny, and he was talking to me after all this has happened, probably a year or so. Well, no, I was already dating you, so it was about 3 years ago. But he came up to me, so it's been 2 years since my son was dead, and he says, "Oh yeah, I know the guy who used to live in that house." Wow. And I'm like, "Oh really? And he doesn't realize he's talking to the guy who built the house, And he goes, he's like, "Yeah, man, his kid committed suicide." And I'm like, "Oh, like
untrue.
That's so far from the truth.
Right.
It's not the truth. Just because someone dies or takes a pill doesn't mean they want to kill themselves.
Right.
It's we live in a society, especially when marijuana was coming out. It's easier to get marijuana. When I was a kid, I've done some Mister, can you buy me some alcohol before? I've done that. But when today, it's easier to get marijuana, and I mean you don't have to ask nothing.
No, you just
it's real easy to get marijuana. So like right away, my son was getting really intrigued with marijuana, and I guess our state was giving kids, if their doctor gave them a medical marijuana, kids were getting medical marijuana cards.
Right.
That were going to Destiny and schools, and and he's, and you're thinking you're putting your kids in a Christian school to be safe, and the truth is maybe that's just, you might as well just put them in regular school. I love the Lord and I want my kids, but how would I say this? It's easy to say you're a Christian.
It is.
It's easy to say that you have a relationship with the Lord. I was married 16 years, and I loved that woman. And we ended up getting divorced and life. But I never start off life thinking, man, I think I'm going to go married 16 years, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to divorce her.
Yeah.
I know you don't do that. And I look at today in my life, and there's a scripture, and I shared it with you, and it's in James 1. And it says, "Consider it pure joy when trials of many kinds come against you, because it develops perseverance. and perseverance must take its course so you're mature and complete in every way. And I remember reading that scripture when I was in like high school.
Wow.
And it became my favorite scripture in high school. Like, consider it pure joy when trials come against you.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know what a trial was. I mean, yeah, you got peer pressure. Us kids, you go through stuff, but I think that sometimes God does, and particularly in my life, I was protected. God protected me as a child. I remember praying at a young age. I mean, I'd hear my parents struggling financially and all this stuff. And I remember one time praying, saying, God, don't let me struggle financially like that.
Yeah.
Like, because I'd see them arguing about finances,
Right.
and I just, that was a thing, man, Lord, don't help me. And just as a kid, that prayer life that I had to have a relationship with the Lord, but then you become that kid that grows up and becomes a teenager, and you start forming your thing. Well, me, I did. I got real involved in a youth group. One of the best things my dad did do is took us to a church that had a big youth group. I mean, the youth group I was involved in was 300 kids.
Wow. Can I ask you this here? Kind of changing
go ahead.
subject. How was your faith tested?
Oh, through this?
During the time, the initial call, running there, being anxious, and then the night you leave the hospital.
So when I called my son at 8:00 that night, thanks for bringing us back to this, because like I said, your brain goes so many places. When I called my son at 8:00, they decided, okay, you guys want to stay there. And then I remember telling my son, I said, son, make wise decisions. And I told him, I said, I love you. And he told me he loves me. And then I went on with my night. And I went to sleep. I was asleep, and I got a phone call close to midnight and from my nephew. And when my nephew gave me that call, he was frantic, told me that my son probably had an overdose. And I like, hearing that was, I know what overdose is. My uncle had an overdose when I was a kid. He didn't come out of it. I know an overdose is not something to take lightly. There's people that go through overdoses, and I started praying, and in 30 minutes, God told me that my son was dead.
Wow.
So the trip from Draper Lake to Yukon, I knew my son died. That he would not be coming home. And God told me that scripture where it says, where Jesus is talking to somebody, you might know where it's at, and he's talking to somebody, and he says, well, let me go bury my family first. Let me go take care of these problems first. And that scripture just, let the dead bury the dead.
Yes.
And that was hard. Like, now I'm grieving. But I'm hoping that it's not true.
Yeah, there's no time limit on grief. Oftentimes, people might say, man, get out of it, move on. So this happened in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And this is 2026, and you're yet grieving. You yet have the.
I cried today.
Yeah.
It's.
I cried yesterday.
No, I believe in crying.
Yeah. Oh my God. Get it out.
I think that the best thing you could do in grieving is take that time. Crying is is a God's gift, and it doesn't make you weak. And sometimes you have to cry, And I ride motorcycles, and I've shared this with you. As I remember through this grieving process, I went 22,000 miles on my bike, and I remember one day waking up, or I would say I woke up, and I was looking at the mileages on my bike and how much I rode and how many tears were shed, just me and my bike. And if that bike could tell stories, or say how many times tears have fell on it for the loss of my son, and tears still fall. But God has turned my tears to joy. And this life we live and the emotions that God gives us is extremely unique to what we get to experience in life is, and I'm a firm believer that your story's never over.
Right.
If you allow God to turn your sorrows into joy, and if you allow God to allow you to take the time, but time is also not our friend.
That's right.
It's not. I mean, it's been 6 years, and to me, parts of that was yesterday.
Okay, so you were saying you actually got on the motorcycle, did the 22,000 miles. So that was in an effort of staying busy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you were sharing something with us before the podcast that some things stand busy and lead to wrong things.
So I'll share that with me in my life is so my it's interesting because in the Bible God changes names.
Right. Yeah.
He changes names. And he is interesting because he changed my name to Top Hat.
Okay.
and yeah, it's because I put on a silly hat. But everybody calls me Top Hat.
Okay.
And I remember because when you lose somebody, you lose yourself.
Yes.
You lose your. I was talking today, sharing with someone just that I was going to be doing this podcast, and I said, man, when you lose a kid, you lose dreams. Everything that you thought you were working for, everything that you thought you were building for, and you lose it, and now you're balancing like, okay, what's next? Okay, I have a daughter.
Right.
Okay, so my daughter is, but I had 2 kids, 14 months apart. Well, now I have one.
Right.
It's weird when people say, "Hey, do you have any kids?" And sometimes I'm like, I have a daughter.
Yeah.
But the truth is that I had a son.
I understand.
And that's a whole nother. So that part of me died, and it's like there was something new in me that has never ever been. It was like it to me. It was like the first time I really felt God's Spirit in me. Like he anoints you, and you feel God's presence come upon you, and He changes your life. My son's death was no different in a sense. I was changed, and I didn't know who I was.
And it's something that you say that because I felt that way too. With the loss of my wife, I found myself questioning, Lord, what's going on? Who am I now?
Mm-hmm.
Because of that loss was so significant and so close, and so it's just it's really hard to explain that, because it's almost like you lose a part of your identity.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you're trying trying to find yourself again, trying to find that balance in life.
And that's I think why God changed people's names.
Yeah.
Because they were no longer different. They were different. They were no longer that person.
Right.
And to know that in this life you're going to change.
Yeah.
You're going to change. And like the 22,000 miles, I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice where I wanted to be. And I remember about that the year mark, Josiah's birthday would come around, and that's October's a very it's almost a new anniversary for this new me. And I have to ask, and I remember, the first year goes by, and it that was a blur. I went to Sturgis. I don't remember Sturgis.
Wow.
I remember. I hurt, and I was self-medicating. Maybe drinking, smoking marijuana. Just I was like trying. I talked to you about the numbness that you feel.
Yeah, it is a numbness.
It's, and I believe that people be like, numbness, the numbness feeling, it's bad.
It is.
It's bad. Yeah. It's bad because you get up, you go to work, and you're just doing, but you're numb, and you're. It's almost like you're being an actor, like you're trying to be a person that is there, and common sense. Someone lost a 15-year-old son probably about a year later, not even a year later than my son, and it was in a group that I was in, and and I could feel for them, but now I'm not the only one who lost a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
It happens often.
It does. It does.
It's a sad thing. It's life. One thing I do for people that have lost their kids is I want to, and I thought of it today, and I thought, man, God, is the one thing I could, like a nugget that I could give people that are going through what I've gone through is. And I would say it's God's wink. It's God's wink. Do you have that picture of the tie-dye shirt?
Is that it?
Okay, so right here is me. This is Josiah. Let me explain this. This is Josiah. As you know, I look like what is that, Eminem?
Eminem.
But this is Josiah, and when I was young, about his age, they found some pictures, and I used to dye my hair. I'm from California, and just kind of scruff it up, and they wanted to dye their hair. And I said, well, let's do it. Let's dye our hair. This was a property I had over by Draper Lake. So we dyed our hair, and this is within months, by the way. This is probably the last picture I really took with my son.
He looks young, really. Really young.
He is. From 14 to 15 is a critical, like this age. He was just trying to find himself.
Wow.
And then the girls and the destiny. He played football. His coach called him Squirrel because he had put him on, defensive line because he'd get through that line.
Wow.
And he was a good kid.
Wow.
Fun. So this picture was that. And then this might have been the beginning of September, and he died in October. And so this is my daughter Cherish, and this is Josiah, and that's me. And we just took that picture, and we just dyed our hair. And there's a picture in there that shows us when we were dyeing our hair and had the bags on our head. And these are great memories. And it's nice to have memories, but they're also emotional memories.
Yeah, they are.
Because that's my world right there.
Wow.
And when I look at these pictures, I didn't know in the same timeline. I remember asking Josiah, Josiah, what do you think about God? He's going to a Christian school, and he had questions. He told me, Dad, I don't know if I believe that. Dad, I don't know if this, it's like I see so much people tell you one thing and then they do the opposite,
Exactly.
and teachers that have their kids that go to school, their kids get special privileges, but we don't, because they're the staff kids, and our kids see this stuff, and it threw questions at them, and so that's that. And I look at this and I could say, think of all the joys and the things I have. And it's these things that I could say, you know what, God, thank you for the 15 years.
Right.
I wouldn't have traded it.
Right. And I found myself saying that also. My wife and I was married 35 years. We dated 4 years, so a total of 39 years. And I met her when she was 10. So really a total of 50 years. Her.
Wow.
I met her, so I thank God, for the 35 years that I did have with her, because we can be so critical of the time that was lost when she passed. But the 35 years, so we have to give God thanks for that time. And in my situation, it was to death do you part, So because I asked the Lord, I was like, Lord, I'm expecting, 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
But God said, to death do you part. So it was finished. So a new chapter to start, and wherever the chapter take you. Right after my wife passed away, I said, where do I go from here? Because you're lost. It's like you're in a distant land. You're just out here.
And you're learning.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. When you have a death like yours, or you lose a son, I would say that's a rebirth. It's there's something new and it's been planted in you, and you don't know what that's going to turn into.
No.
And in that picture, I know I wanted to share this their mom, I had my own business. I was trying to build stuff, and my kid's mom. I mean, even Josiah, one time he told me that, hey, Dad, you should leave Mom. And I'm thinking, son, you don't even know what you're talking about. But your teenage kids, when I'm gone working, they're dealing with their mom and their mom personality, and they're forming their own lives. And now here my son is telling me, Dad, you should just divorce Mom. And I'm like, son, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. But at that time, my ex did move out, and so the kids were staying with me at the house, which I loved. Having that time if I was home to just hang out with them. And we were, how would I say, even in that, when you're married 16 years and now in a sense you're single. And when me, wrong or indifferent, but when my ex told me she wanted to move out and do that stuff, I was just like, I guess I was at the point just done, maybe. Right. But here's the thing is I could sit there and tell you all this stuff, but God already seen that my son's going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, like he sees the train going down the road and there's no track.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. We can make all these plans, like for our kids, the prom, marriage, and driving license, all that. But at the end of the day, God, He has a plan, He has a will, and it has to be fulfilled. During my time of prayer and fasting, and consecration, I was trying to bargain with God. Well, Lord, if you do this, I do this here, and there's no bargaining because it's already set.
It's set.
Yeah, the Bible talks about, it was once appointed for man to die.
Oh,
but, so we all have to go this route, but I guess picking up the pieces after that person passes away, we can either remain, I guess, stuck. I remain, in that period. I try to move on, and And I think the hard part about moving on is because we think that they will be forgotten.
So absolutely. I mean, I remember I was going through my phone and trying to save pictures and this and that, because you don't want to forget. The truth is you don't forget.
No, you don't forget.
You don't forget what. So can you? There's a picture over there, and it has it it has it shows that tie dye shirt, the front of it. You see it? The tie dye shirt on there. Did you get it in there?
Got all of them on the shipping on there. And can I ask a live question here? It says,
Yes.
what advice would you give parents to teach their children to prevent this from happening to them?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
As far as the drugs, because it's so prevalent now. The schools, the basketball courts, and I believe we live in a time now, where the parents is kind of under pressure to let them go out, and
experiment.
Right. Right.
So I need to look at my life a little bit as a parent. My dad, when I was a kid, raised us in church. I mean, we were at church Sunday. I remember going to baptisms that were in California, the old, gospel bands and barbecues, and he had 5 kids. And to me, it was like, man, where do you take your kids when you have no money? So you take them to church.
But
we were, but thank God, because God got a hold of my life at a young age. My siblings, if you talk to all 5 of us, their life is different than mine.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm like, I was protected.
Yeah.
Like, where was I when that was going on?
Yeah.
And I look at my parents and I look at my dad today and my mom, and it's as now I'm a 50-year-old man. I turn 50 next weekend.
Wow.
It's like I sometimes I can look at him and say, man, I can relate with you. But something I can't relate with is, do we learn? Do we learn? Guys, old dogs learn new tricks. I mean, we do learn, and it's a choice to stay stuck. It's a choice to fill your life with bad relationships. It's a choice to where you go. And okay, so that's Josiah painting. Do you have that shirt? Okay, you don't have it. There's a shirt that I got, and I wanted to say this is, when Josiah died, worst time in my life. I mean, the whole School of Destiny showed up to his funeral, and to me, because my favorite scripture is, consider it pure joy when trials of many kinds come against you, because it develops perseverance, and perseverance must take its course so you're mature and complete in every way. And then it says, if you lack wisdom, ask God. Ask God. Yeah. Ask God.
Yeah.
And that is hard.
It is.
Like when Josiah died, consider it pure. Like, I asked God, how do I consider this joy?
Right.
Like this was not in the plans.
No, this,
you could, I could go divorce. There's a lot of things you could have done.
Yeah.
But this was not right.
Oh my God.
And so in all the trauma, and my daughter, I mean, she lost her best friend. She was 13. He was 14. He just turned 15. She's getting in January. She was going to be turning 14, and and her mom moves out of the house, and now her brother dies. I mean, a grenade went off in my life. Dang, she got hit with everything. Yeah. Like now you have 2 parents that are totally. My ex, she did not do what God called her to do. She did not do, but what did God call you to do? Because your life just got effed up, guys. I'll try to keep it clean.
But
I mean, it just got screwed up.
But like I said, count it all joy.
But and
going
here
back to
I
that,
am.
it's like,
and so I did. I did what I do is I bought me a motorcycle. That was joy. I mean, I bought myself a Harley
at the time,
and it
seemed like joy.
It was a terrible decision. I mean, I almost lost it. I didn't. I still have the same bike, but I lost everything. I was running. I'm trying to figure out God, how do you do this as joy? But this is why is this my favorite scripture? Is this Satan trying to test me? But God gave me a wink, and today it made me think is God might know things are going to happen, but he doesn't plan. It's not like God is trying to hurt you. No, he's not saying, this guy, man, I'm going to really give it to him. Right. Yeah, God could protect us, but we are in this flesh and we're going to walk in it. And I'll get back to that question. But as you're going through things and going through this life, the only thing you could do is raise your kids the best you can, and knowing that you are not perfect, and you are the teacher. My dad is 70 years old. He came out to visit me, and we got in a big fight, and I just told him to leave. Not nice words at all. I would keep this rated good. But this just happened a week ago.
Wow.
And I love my dad. And my heart hurts for my dad. And I'm trying to, I think I'm going to share this, is how do you honor your parents? God didn't say honor your parents if they do this,
right,
or honor your parents if they do this, or honor your parents if they have a strong marriage. It says honor your parents. And how do you honor a parent that has not made the wisest decisions? And for the most part, all they've done is live within their flesh, and they call it God.
And I dealt with that right after the death of my wife. A situation came up, and I went through the same thing. The anger flashed out at him. But I thought about it. Life is just so short. And if this man passed, the burden is on me.
So with my dad, I told him to get lost. And I love him.
Yeah.
And if my dad called me, I'm going to still honor him. But you know what? I want my dad to understand that, life was not perfect, Dad.
Right.
You made some serious mistakes.
Yeah.
And as a parent, and to that question, is how do you keep your kids safe? Learn from your mistakes and change.
Yes.
You have to change. If you're, David made a mistake in the Bible. He made a mistake. Yes, he should have been at war. But he made a mistake, and he looked out a window.
Yeah,
and out that window was something pretty.
Yeah.
He made a mistake, but he made a mistake.
He did.
But he tried to cover up that mistake.
Yes, he did.
And he was king. He could have done anything. He just said, hey, but he wanted to cover it up, and he ended up telling again the guy, and the guy was a nobleman. He slept on the porch, and David made a mistake.
He did. Yes, he did.
And instead of saying, dude, I screwed up, and he ended up losing a son. He lost a son.
He did. So let me ask you this here. Okay, going through the grief and everything, did it affect your health?
So in 2020, I had open heart surgery in June, and I had my aortic root replaced. That tower that you see us painting, I just got out of surgery. And had that job station called me and said, hey, a plane had hit our tower, and a crop duster was flying down, and they were flying through the guidelines, and he hit a guideline and killed a guy, brought the tower down. So
So was it due to stress or
So why I'm bringing that up is medically. So I lost my eye. But I have Marfan's disease, and I don't know if it was due to that. Man, I checked myself into the hospital many times thinking I was going to have a heart attack. Anxiety was a real thing. I still deal with it today. So I do think that you could cause some serious medical situations going through you if you allow yourself not to grow, and to understand that you're going through something that is very, very traumatic. And so, yeah, I would say that you could definitely. I mean, it's common. I mean, how many people do you know that are elderly, and next you know one of their spouse dies, and not too much longer the other spouse will pass. And so so yes, I would say that there were some things that I dealt with that I had to deal with. The biggest thing that I had to deal with was me. Was where am I at, and what kind of person am I going to be? And am I going to be a person that is going to hold on to the faith I was raised with and allow God to speak to me? Or was I going to be somebody that is mad?
I think I found myself saying that sometimes, it wasn't by choice. I mean, it was by the sickness that she had, the cancer.
Yeah, the cancer she had.
Right.
It's like, I think the greatest thing that we could know is to know that God didn't leave you, and He has a wink.
Yeah.
And the wink is sometimes hard to see in your circumstance. And there's a tie. My family wanted to do tie dye shirts, and I'll get back to this. I really want to share this. So I, for my son, they just said, "Hey, can we do tie dyes?" Josiah liked tie dyes. Maybe we all could do a tie dye shirt. We could wear it to his